Okay, so she does mention that they do spend over 5K per week. Now you need to understand 5K is a lot of money. So throughout the week, on top of the fact that they restock, throughout the week there's Pick and Pay and Checkers 60 deliveries. Okay, all right. They'll ask all sorts of questions and you start seeing people compare prices and you start seeing how much did this actually cost. I mean, I ain't even gonna blame her for the wine, you know what I'm saying? As somebody who enjoys myself an adult beverage, it creates this pressure to show this unrealistic spending, and it creates pressure on the people that are actually watching it. And that is really, really something that showed up, for me. Promotes a sense of comparison and shame. So people who cannot afford this, they feel a sense of shame. Like, why can't I afford it? Everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. It is me, it is Katleho. Thank you as always for choosing me over and over again, and thank you for being here. This is a series that so many of you guys seem to enjoy, and we're back. We're back. We're doing the de-influencing series, and let me tell you, I've got a lot to say about this particular thing. Okay, you can already see it in the title of the video, but yeah, before we get started, there's a couple of things that I'm going to talk about. There's a couple of things that I'm going to share, but as always, I am going to show you the videos that go along with what I'm talking about today. So if you enjoy the content, please re-watch those de-influencing series videos. This is episode 3, and I really do appreciate how you guys have taken to these videos. It fosters a lot of conversation. It fosters us to rethink things like over-consumerism and rethink spending habits. Most of the time, it's spending habits, right? Today, we're going to be talking about grocery hauls. Now, before I get started, now this video is purely going to be about grocery hauls in the South African space. I am going to watch some of the grocery hauls that I saw quickly, fleetingly, and I posted them up. And as you know, you're always going to get a real-time reaction of how I feel about these grocery hauls. But I also have to mention, so I am sitting in South Africa right now. This is a developing country. So things like grocery hauls are going to be viewed much more differently than somebody who is watching a grocery haul of a content creator in a developed country. It's a completely different story. That's why here today, I only have South African content creators that are showing their grocery hauls. It's really important to be able to distinguish the difference, especially when it comes to countries and continents where food insecurity is a big, big issue, and where we are looking at buying food and grocery hauls from a completely different lens, as opposed to somebody who is sitting in the States or in the UK and watching grocery hauls. Okay, money, economics, demographics, all of that is going to come into play in this one. So always, as I say, one of the biggest things is people are different. People have different budgets. People have, different things that they can spend their money on. But a lot of the time, especially when it comes to food, this is a really, really serious thing that I'm not afraid to give my take on. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to talk about it. This one is going to be a little bit more on the serious side, but that's what I want with these de-influencing videos. Let's actually really talk about what we are actually witnessing and whether it is content that is progressive in a country like this, or whether it's content that highlights insecurities, that highlights shame, that highlights abundance, only because of the status, the economic status of the people that we are watching. So it's really important that I mention that. But as you know, I'm going to go in, and it is what it is. And let me pull up the videos. We're going to watch a few videos first, and then I'm going to give my take, as I always do. Are you ready? Let's get started.
This is what we got for 6,369 at Woolworths weekly restock. I'm going to try and answer some of your guys' questions from the previous restock that I did. We do not only shop at Woolworths, but 8 times out of 10 we do. We do also shop at Checkers, Pick n Pay, Spar, and all of the above. Yes, we do spend 5k or more per week just to do restock.
Okay, so she does mention that they do spend over 5k per week. Now you need to understand 5k is a lot of money per week on a grocery haul or a grocery restock. But one of the things that I immediately thought of when I started watching this video is the fact that budgets, families are very different, okay? And also the amount of people that live in that household. It's really important to be able to mention that, because if it's a family of 2 and they live in a house where they do a weekly restock that's around this price, that is diabolical. I'm not even going to lie to you. That is diabolique. Okay, but one of the things that I've also mentioned, this is something that we need to take into account here. Look at the background, okay? We are looking at the fact that she's buying from Woolies, which is one of the more premier grocery stores in South Africa. So you know that you're going to spend coin on Woolies, okay? But also look at the background, okay? I'm seeing Smeg Rots, I'm seeing Carol Boyce, I'm seeing a bunch of Smeg products. So to me, it already tells me that this is a family that is maybe middle to high middle income or even affluent, right? They are coining in, you know, but I also went into a little bit of a deep dive to find out that there are actually 6 people who live in this house. So it makes sense that this kind of amount of money would be spent on groceries. But let's actually watch what she's pulling out of the grocery bags, okay? Okay.
Restock only. But it lasts us about 2 to 3 days until the food is finished. So throughout the week, there is Pick n Pay and Checkers deliveries.
Are you hearing that? So throughout the week, on top of the fact that they restock, throughout the week, there's Pick n Pay and Checkers 60 deliveries. Okay, all right.
Our restock does not contain any basics like rice, sand, maize meal, cooking oil, meat, or anything along those lines because we hardly cook. So
they hardly cook, which I get that. So that means that maybe the more staple products, the non-perishables, the meats and things like that, it's a completely different grocery trip, right? A trip to the store for that, maybe once a month, who knows? I get that because for so many people, including myself, I normally step out to the store once a week to get things like produce, right? I will get vegetables, I will get fruits, because those things go quickly and they spoil as well. So you would really need to touch up on those. Those are things that you use quite a lot, things like yogurts, things like all sorts of things. So it makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense. But let's continue.
We do decide on a home-cooked meal. We just buy what is needed on that day. With regards to cleaning utensils, we are always stocked up on them, but just in case we run out, we just order them through Pick n Pay and Checkers. And no, this is not what we leave on day in and day out. We actually leave on takeaways. So from breakfast, lunch, dinner, all of that, we always ordering takeaways. We are a family of 6, 4 girls and 2 boys. If you shop at Woolworths, you will know that the food there is always 2 to 3 days close to the expiring date. So we don't have a choice but to finish the food. It does not go to waste. Hence, we buy what would last us 2 to 3 days. I hope that I answered all of your guys' questions.
If you look at that, she says she hopes she answers all of the questions. I'm going to stop this video here. However, if you look at that, or maybe I'll play it in the back. If you look at that, you can see that most of the things that she's pulling out, she started pretty great with fruit and produce, and she's really telling the truth when it comes to Woolies. Fruits and produce, couple of days. You got to get rid of it after a couple of days, right? 3 days, 4 days, you need to eat it and get rid of it. But if you also notice, notice, there's a lot of other items that are in here that are more on the luxurious side, right? She's pulling out the smoothies, she's pulling out the yogurts, she's pulling out the trail mixes of the nuts and things like that. This, for a South African community of people who go through things like food insecurities, these are luxuries to buy. And you can imagine that a lot of the people who watch this and cannot afford this kind of food, it brings about a lot of shame. It also looks at content like this, and you look at the fact that at the end of the day, it's a little bit tone deaf. In a country where you are struggling, many people are struggling with food insecurities. Don't get me wrong, people can post whatever it is that they want to post, but it comes across as a little bit insensitive and tone deaf in a country with such huge issues on food insecurities, where children have to line up during the day at school to get food, and for many of them that's the only meal they'll eat that day. So to be able to watch this, for me as somebody also who's a content creator, who's done content like this where I do grocery hauls when I'm in my house, you'll hardly ever see me post that on short form content, which is like TikTok and Reels and things like that, because it just doesn't ring right for me, because I know that if somebody goes grocery hauls, my video will come up, this kind of video will come up, and then you'll have somebody who's actually financially struggling, where all they can buy is those 5 rand packs of food from Spar, or where all they can buy is just a little bit. They don't spend more than 300-400 rand, and that's for a family of 4. So for me, it's really hard to watch this kind of content and to reckon with this kind of content when I know that there are so many people who are struggling with it. So as much as it's abundance, and I'm looking at that house and I'm thinking, fire, baby, beautiful house. But I mean, beautiful kitchen. I don't know the rest of the house, right? Beautiful kitchen. But it's really, really hard for somebody who's actually hasn't had a meal in 2 days, and maybe he's on TikTok, hey ho, but they're watching this, and it creates a lot of sense of shame and the feeling of lack when there are so many people who abundantly eat and enjoy, and that's hard to reckon with, right? So let's watch another one. Because you guys already saw the rest in terms of this one.
Welcome back to the Mraudis. So guys, let's do an end of month grocery haul. This is the most I've spent this year, and that says a lot about our economy. This cost me 10,800 rand, and I almost fainted. I was like, what? Excuse me. But I went to Woolies, Checkers, Dis-Chem, and Clicks. And the main reason...
Look, I'm already seeing the kids' Pampers. This is a big shop in the sense that she even said that monthly, right? So when you think about monthly, you think about staples, you think about things that are needed. And this is something that I consider a lot. In grocery hauls where there's children in the house, I get it. The kids must have whatever they want. And if you can afford, pop off, right? But if you think about how some of them, they will have 8 packets of Simba chips, like the big ones, right? And then you have the yogurts, these 6-pack yogurts, and they have like 5 of those. And then you have, it's a lot, right? It is a lot when you think about how you can maybe compromise and buy 2 of the big yogurt packs, right? And spend a lot less. But when I understand that kids go to school and there's all these kinds of things that are happening. And I get that. It makes sense. With big monthly hauls, 10,000 rand is very excessive, but you also need to consider how many people, again, live in the house. But for somebody who's really going through a lot and trying by all means to feed their kid and trying to make ends meet and spending their last rounds, ZARs, on feeding the kids and making sure that the kids are well fed and they've got a healthy, nutritious lunch, but they can't afford this kind of stuff, it's hard to watch. But let's go on.
The reason for that is because like a lot of Ori stuff you actually can't find it at like one store. They'll have like 2 tins of milk here, a tin of milk there, so you end up having to go to so many places. And I also decided to try some new meats this month. So this is the new diapers that she's using, and I'm so disappointed because I only like the sensitive care, the ones that tell you when the diaper is like full and stuff, but they don't have that in a size 7, so we had to switch her to these ones. I've looked in both Huggies and Pampers, so Pampers, if you're watching, please make those for size 7s and above. But anyway, this is what we have, moved on to. And remember now, guys, this is a household of 4, 3 adults and 1 child, and the Eucerin is for myself and for Ori because we both have eczema. And I bought a lot of different meats.
4, 3 adults, 1 child. That's a lot. It's a lot. But I also noticed that there's hangers there. There's a lot of extra stuff that she bought, which typically don't happen monthly, right? I mean, if you buy hangers, the next time you buy hangers is a couple of months later, or for some people, the following year. It depends, right? If you are somebody who declutters and things like that. She bought a plant there, so that's not something you buy every month. I get that. Lots of fizzy drinks there. We got some Coke. And listen, I love me a Coke. Okay. I love me a Coke Zero for me, personally. But, there's a bunch of stuff there. The meat, I get it. When I looked at the kids' food, I get that she maybe wants to make her life easier and the other adults in the house's lives easier for the sake of, when they're feeding the kid and whatever. And kids love these small packs of food, but it adds up, right? It adds up when you know that you could, if it's something with mash or whatever, you could cook the mash. I mean, that's my take, right? It's a lot. It's a lot. And I can imagine that somebody who's watching this, who's going through a tough time, is struggling to get through a video like this.
And I bought a lot of different meats, so I think that's what was probably pricey. The oxtails, the chickens, the lambs, the pork. So I actually like to get pre-cooked some meats because it makes it easier for me to make them during the week. And then these are Ori's like lunch meals, and I do this so that her nanny doesn't have to cook for her twice, because she usually makes her like dinner, and I'm like, girl, there's no way you're gonna cook lunch and dinner, it's too tiring. So she makes her dinner and then lunch is already done, and she loves those meals together with her Peppa Pig snacks and everything. And anyway, bye.
That's a big shop. And one of the things I came across when I was going through the comments, and we'll have comments in future videos where I screenshot some of the comments. However, one of the things that I noticed and I picked up a lot when I was going through the comments is people were asking, like, how much is that meat, right? How much is the oxtail? Oxtail is a very luxurious protein, okay? It's part of the luxury pile, okay, of foods to have in the house. I hardly even ever buy oxtail myself, and I live alone. But preferences, right? So I've noticed that in the comments, a lot of people will actually ask that, how much did you spend on that meat? How much did you spend on this? And they'll ask all sorts of questions, and you start seeing people compare prices, and you start seeing how much did this actually cost. Some content creators say how much it costs, some don't. And it's really, really hard to watch this and think that some families are spending around 10,000 Rand each month for groceries. Whoa, wow. All right, that's hard. I mean, I ain't even gonna blame her for the wine, you know what I'm saying? As somebody who enjoys myself an adult beverage, but I need to preface this. She mentioned a family of 2. Okay, she mentioned a family of 2. So we're gonna watch, because I feel like the music that's in the back, I might get copyrighted for it. So we're gonna watch silently, but I'm gonna hear what's going on. But you know how it works, Linda. Always questioning my moves. I mean, that's a lot of snacks. And snacks are not staples. You know what I'm saying? Snacks are not staples. So to somebody who's watching this that can't even afford to buy snacks, bro, like this stings. It hits hard, right? Because snacks are really not staples. But you know, you know. Monthly top up. So okay, monthly top up. So once, right? Right? She does this once, right? I'm hoping so. I mean, for a family of two, I'm well. Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. Crazy. That's so crazy to me. Right. I'm going to stop it there because also we need to consider that those sources are not, I would love to believe if she lives alone, those sources are not sources that you restock up on every month. I don't buy Mrs. Ball's chutney every month, but we cook differently, right? It's fine. Maybe in some households, man, she living off of that Mrs. Ball's chutney. You know what I'm saying? But one thing you also need to consider, especially with content creators who do regular grocery hauls, look at the name brands that are on here. You know what I'm saying? This is also another opportunity to create content and also to work with brands, because you are showing them that, hey man, I'm using Robertson's spice, okay? And then in the next video, because these grocery hauls do really well, and then in the next video you are cooking a meats, and in that you show your Robertson spice. You know what I'm saying? So it's also another opportunity to, especially when they want to become content creators and they're not just, doing it for fun and all of that. It's also another opportunity to be able to get paid sponsorship work with brands. That's something that you always need to consider and have in the back of your mind, that chances are this is something that is also potentially, a thing. I get that. The part with the sunlight and the Radox and the Nivea men. Okay, so I also need to consider how many people live in this house. Because hope it's a gal. That's none of my business. But that seems more sensible, right? One bleach, one handy yanda. I like to say it like that. One sunlight. I get it. That seems sensible. The scrub daddies, the pot scrubbers, love those as well. I also get those monthly. Okay. Okay. I feel like that is a little bit sensible, especially the fact that we clock that there's a Nivea man there. You know what I'm saying? Maybe she got a friend, who lives with her or whatever. But that, for me, seems more sensible. It really does, for a month. Except there's those extra things, like you have the Nutella. I mean, enjoy life. There's certain things that you don't buy monthly, and you also need to enjoy yourself and buy some things that you want as well. So that makes sense. I mean, for me, it makes sense. Yeah. Let's see this one. So there's a child in this household because you can see the Fritos, the strips of Fritos. That's for iskaftini, Mari biscuits. Come on now. I know there's a lot of grown-ups that love Mari biscuits dipped into some tea. I get that. But you can see that there's a kid in the home. And for me, that is the one space where I will not even question it. Like the kid must enjoy. So I get that. Oh, those Romany creams though. Banger. I haven't had those in a long time. I should add that to my food shop. Yeah, I think for me that one also seems quite sensible and reasonable. You see, the thing about this is we don't get prices of how much these things cost, but some of them are sensible. A lot of them, especially where you see the extra addition of non-staples, snacks, fun, nice to have types of food, it becomes a little bit harder to watch. But that seems quite sensible. I think one of the things that we need to consider when it comes to but one thing we also need to consider is that we need to, with these grocery hauls, it also normalizes excessive spending. And that is a big thing, especially in a country where food insecurity is a big deal, right? It normalizes excessive spending, and because of the fact that they normally include things like snacks that are really not necessary. They're not, but it's a nice to have. So if you can afford it, sure, it's not necessary. But the bulk purchases that end up averaging what normal households just cannot afford, even in households where, in the township where there's like 7 people in that house, they're still not going to be spending 10,000 rand a month, or 20,000 rand, six people in the house, 20,000 rand a month on food, so it creates this pressure to show this unrealistic spending, and it creates pressure on the people that are actually watching it. And that is really, really something that showed up, for me, in these things. Also, it promotes a sense of comparison. It promotes a sense of comparison and shame. So people who cannot afford this, they feel a sense of shame. Like, why can't I afford it? I mean, that maybe obviously budgets are different and they're not the same. However, it doesn't take away those feelings of shame as to, if you're a parent and you wish you could do more for your child and buy all these extra, yogurts and extra snacks and extra this Oreos, these nice to haves. And it creates that sense of shame. And it tackles people feeling a sense of a loss of dignity, all because they're trying to make ends meet, but they can't afford that. So watching these kinds of videos in a country where food insecurity is so high is really, really difficult to watch. I did mention also the opportunity, to become an influencer, right? That influencer-driven consumerism, because you want to become an influencer, you cook a lot, and so now because of that, you do a lot of grocery hauls, you do a lot of meal preps and all of this, and you in the hopes of getting branded and sponsored content. I think the opportunity for value here, where you could create content like this that could be valuable in a society where inequality is so high economically and also in terms of food and food security, you could do budget-friendly food hauls, right? And I've seen some of them where you could go to places where you can save, even buying the very same thing, the very same Mrs. Ball's chutney. You could get it at a different price at a U-Save or at a Checkers, as opposed to Woolies, especially if you have the savings accounts and the Checkers savings card and all of that. You could find ways in which you could do budget friendly things where the people who are watching your content and can't afford, they can feel that sense of connection to you. It's an opportunity. It's a missed opportunity for value, which I feel like a lot of content creators can capitalize on, especially ones that do this kind of content. Creative ways to stretch a grocery budget, meal prepping, right? Buying oranges in bulk, like the big orange pack that it's going to last you the whole month, and you don't have to rebuy oranges weekly. Buy the big blueberry packs, buy freeze things, right, so that you can use them again and things like that. It's a missed opportunity here that I think could be so valuable for so many content creators, but also create that form of relatability. So it's really, just in closing, it's really hard to watch content like this, especially I can imagine even harder to watch it if you are a family that is really stretching budgets and finding it difficult to make ends meet. It comes across as quite tone deaf and insensitive, and I think that's a conversation that needs to be had. Some content, and hear me out, hear my chat, you can do whatever you want. If you are the one who's creating the content, you can do whatever you want. But I feel like aspirational content shouldn't be grocery hauls, right? Aspirational content should be 4-pipe German cars, living in a 8 million rand house and traveling like you're climbing a taxi and traveling and sitting in business class at least once a month. That's aspirational content. You know what I'm saying? Grocery hauls shouldn't be aspirational content. It shouldn't. But in some ways, in the South African space, it is. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching this video. Thank you, as always, for choosing me over and over again. This is episode 3 of the De-Influencing series. I would love your take. Let us engage. Let us comment. Let's talk about it. Let us safely and respectfully debate about this, because I'm sure you'll have a lot to say. As always, thank you so much for choosing me over and over again. I'll see you in the next episode of the De-Influencing series. If there is something that you would want me to cover in the De-Influencing series, this is where you can come in and help me out. Put it in the comment section below. Let me know what you would like me to cover in the De-Influencing series. And sometimes I will cover international content. Sometimes it'll be local content, because that's also important to me too. All right. Thank you for choosing me over and over again. I've said that 4 or 5 times, huh? And I'll see you in the next... Wow, there's someone next to my door. Yes, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, I'll see you soon. Mwah. Sayonara.